Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
And they're off.
Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at goracing.ie.
And a very happy new year to you. Welcome along to Friday Night Racing, the first one proper of the 2019 year. We're going to be very focused over the next month or so on the Dublin Racing Festival and then beyond on what is going to happen at Cheltenham as well. We've got Johnny Ward with us and John Duggan with us in studio. Gentlemen, happy new year to you.
Happy new racing year, Ger and Johnny.
Better be happier than Christmas anyway.
Oh, still better.
God, it was a tough Christmas.
I had a great Christmas.
Had you?
Yeah.
John told me this during the week, and
after timing.
Well, it wasn't so much that. It was just like everyone.
Is your mic on? Just check that there, because we've muted Johnny Ward because he was telling such a tale of woe.
Everyone has had a bloodbath. There will be some who survived, a bit like the Black Death, but most of us are dead.
You're not dead.
I'm not dead at all. I had a 10-1 winner, 12-1 winner, came out ahead.
If you played a bit of value bets, like
I'm a value punter. So if it was a favourites festival, like last year, I think at Leopardstown, I didn't do well at all. So look, it's the way you play, and I play like an each way punter. So
it was, I'd say, collectively for punters that I've spoken to, it was like the worst few days they've literally ever had for a lot of people.
Because favourites kept getting turned over. 5
favourites from 4 days at Leopardstown, no favourite at Kempton, and all these horses that were short price favourites: Bouverdare, Animix, Limini, Sam Crow, Get a Bird. It just goes on, and it was hard to explain it all. It was inexplicable, really. Gubu, you might say.
Is it Gubu, or is it actually that there's a lot of hype, a lot of sheep, and other horses are being very well prepared, that the science of all the yards is catching up with each other? And so previously you would have had like great horses which were so far ahead of everybody else that the chasing pack is catching, but the hype still says, you know, this horse is really famous, you should all back it, and so everybody does.
Yeah, there's an element of that, like with Sam Crow, in that his form actually wasn't stacking up to suggest he should be the price he was. But there were so many defeats. Bouverdare was the one I can't get my head around. That makes absolutely no sense that he could be beaten by a mare manifestly inferior to him, who was beaten miles by mares, novices last season. You know, and there were just other inexplicable results that combined together made it a festival that punters anyway will generally want to forget. On the flip side, bookmakers, a lot of whom are finding it tough, had a great Christmas, and they'll kick on into the new year with a bit of confidence. And I hope the bookmakers in general, who maybe are losing interest in horse racing a bit because in-play betting is becoming so big, realise that horse racing can still be a very vibrant product if they promote it enough.
I feel like I'm living in an alternative universe, which is kind of strange.
The weather was amazing. The festival seems to have been
It was amazing, but it was alarming. I mean, it was way too hot for this time of year. There were bees in Dublin on the 31st. There were I think, and this is going to be a major worry for racing going forward. Like, if you owned a soft ground horse this season, you've had almost no chance. Like, so Presenting Percy didn't run a Christmas because the ground was too quick.
Well, Lorena's only running tomorrow. Hasn't been running all season because the ground has been unsuitable, and I think that might have been a reason for some of the strange results. Like Sharjah is a good ground horse, beaten 10 lengths in a Supreme Novice Hurdle last year, wins the Galway Hurdle, and then comes and wins at Leopardstown. And I felt with Footpad and with Mellon, these horses will be better next time out. They'll be better the next day. So I think that, to me, it's always still about Cheltenham. Everything is about Cheltenham, and I think I found the results strange last year at Leopardstown, and I found them strange again. But I've always treated Leopardstown as somewhere that I'm looking to maybe watch the graded races more, and I'm looking at the handicaps for value. That's the way I would generally play Leopardstown.
That's a fair play.
All right, well, let's get to this week's guest. Patrick Mullins has been very good to join us on Skype. Patrick, how are you doing? Happy New Year to you.
Thanks very much, Ger. Good to be here.
How was your Christmas? Is this kind of a little bit of actual post-racing where you get to relax a little bit and have a bit of the leftover turkey?
A bit, yeah. So, I mean, we were obviously, you know, I think we rode out 109 horses on Christmas Day, and then we were racing 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th. I was down in Dromahane the 30th. Then we were Punchestown Fairhouse the 30th, 31st, the 1st. So, yeah, the last 2 days have been a chance to kind of relax a bit, yeah.
And enjoy. It sounds like, you know, obviously it was very successful. There were 10 winners in the yard, John was saying, between Limerick and Leopardstown. And then he mentioned Sharjah. What an amazing win that was.
That was incredible. You know, he's been a star for me. We got a much better picture at the last this year than we did last year. So I think he got a bad fall there last year, and it seemed to take him 6 months to get over it. He came back to form in the Galway hurdle. He hacked up. It's a good thing I didn't get him beaten there, because he was about 20 pound well in now as he stands now. And then obviously when he won the Morgiana, we wondered maybe did the race kind of fall into his lap a bit. But I think his performance on last Saturday showed when he's at his best, he's as good as any of them.
I want to give some credit as well to Eddie O'Leary, who after the race, inevitably the hype was about Sam Crow, but Sharjah won the bloody race, and Eddie O'Leary was like, this race is not about Sam Crow. I'm delighted for the Mullinses. And obviously Eddie O'Leary, Jigginstown and Willie Mullins have split, but I thought it was quite a nice thing that he said, this is not about Sam Crow, this is about Patrick Mullins, a fantastic amateur jockey riding Sharjah.
In a race which had Super Sunday and Mellon as well. It was a competitive race, Patrick.
It was, I thought he was the second lowest rated horse in the race, even after his Morgiana win. And to be honest, I didn't think we'd be winning. But when I was in the parade ring, and it just shows the value of going down and seeing the horse in the parade ring. I saw Mellon, and it's funny, you see a horse every day. When you put a number cloth and a jockey saddle on him, they look a bit different. I just saw him. I thought he's going to need this run. I looked at Super Sunday. I thought he looked the same. And if you saw Sam Crow walking around, his coat was a bit dull, and he just maybe didn't have the same wow factor as when you saw him last year. So going out of the parade ring, I was a bit more confident than I was walking into it.
How much stock would you put in that, actually? Because it's something I suppose a lot of us would probably not be as innately able to actually figure out in terms of coats and just physique and burliness and all that.
Sure. Look, if you're looking at horses every day, like every time I go into a ring for a bumper, I would have thought top of my father to have a look at the horses and see which one stands out. Look, sometimes it turns out right. A lot of good paddock watchers say that when you look at our horses in Cheltenham, that they don't stand out. Nicky Henderson's horses always look like they could be in the RDS. They've got these fantastic coats. They look well. I generally think if I think one of our horses looks well, it's not ready. So you probably need to know the trainer as well. But it's just an extra edge that you can sometimes use. And
would you ever change tack at all from going down and looking at them and seeing who was looking good in the parade ring and the bumper and going, I'm just going to keep an eye and like follow one of these horses on the basis of how well they look?
Well, they're obviously not going to change their tactics completely, but it's an extra thing to think about during a race. Halfway through a race, you might see a horse that you hadn't been fancying and he might look like he's going well. And as you say, you'll have an extra eye on him, but it's just an extra edge, an extra something to put into your calculations.
No, totally. Just take us back to Sharjah. I hadn't realised that you'd fallen at the last year. So is that going through your head as you're careering down to the last? Because I saw a report that you kind of had to rein it in a little bit heading into the last because the pace was so high.
Well, obviously he was going to win the novice hurdle last year very easily, and he himself and Real Still, Paul Townend was on him beside me, and the two of them actually fell. But I thought there was a shadow there last year that just kind of seemed to put them off. So did it cross my mind? It did, but I coming down to the last, there was no stride there. But what I learned from him last year is that he's much better in tight to a hurdle than asking him to go long. He actually hasn't a lot of scope. And if you see the picture of him, he hasn't touched the hurdle. Even though he's put in a short stride and got in quite close, he's very neat with his front feet. So that's how he prefers to jump, I think. So it was great to get over it. And, it made up for last year because, it's nice to be able to repay Rich, because when you fall, you're always thinking you should have done something else.
When you win a race like this where, casual racing fans know the names that John was talking about in that field, is that even more fulfilling than winning on a bumper horse that none of the rest of the country knows? Or do you get as much of a thrill from like steering a bumper horse to victory wherever that happens?
Sure, look, a grade one is a grade one. To be able to go and beat Ruby and David Russell, Jack Kennedy, Puppy and Rachel Blackmore. I don't get to ride in those races every day. Very few people do. So it was a fantastic thrill, and also what added to it, obviously, that the horse had fallen last year. So, and the race went very well. It was an easy race for me to ride because he wasn't a fancied horse. I was able to just tuck in behind all the fancy ones, get over the second last, come wide for a clear run. It was a very simple race to ride. If you're riding a favourite in a bumper or a favourite in that race, you can't maybe ride that race as easily.
Yeah.
When you're not the favourite, it's much easier to ride that type of ride.
It must be lovely to be able to bide your time and know that there isn't there isn't so much pressure on you, and you're not under the duress maybe that you're under when you're less experienced and you're riding Cousin Billy and he's a hot favourite for the Supreme or whatever.
Yeah, sure. I probably didn't realise it back then, but exactly, you can ride a different type of race when you're on the second and third string, and you know, you'll often see that. You see David Mullins there twice robbed races over the Christmas. Kemboy and Good Time Tara, he was allowed to stride on, or even the time at Wicklow Brave in Punchestown. If that was Ruby, everyone would have followed. You wouldn't, Ruby wouldn't be able to do that because everyone would follow immediately. Whereas if you're on a second or third string, you can probably do things and get away with it a bit more.
Yeah.
Would you, Patrick, give Sharjah and each way chance now in the champion hurdle? You said it took a long time for him to get over last year. You got Lorena running tomorrow. Maybe Mellon might improve, and given he finished so close to Bouvardere last March, you'd expect he would improve. And can you make any sense of Bouvardere's run over Christmas yourself?
No, Bouvardere's run was, look, he didn't run to his best for whatever reason. I mean, all horses are mortal. And I think you can just excuse it as a bad day. He's only, hasn't been beaten in 2 years. I think Sharjah has to have a huge chance in Champion Hurdle. My one concern is they watered Cheltenham now to make the ground, safe, good, soft. It'll be much slower than it was for the Morgiana or for the Ryanair. And while there was a downpour in Galway, that's still summer ground that's been rained on. It's not the same as kind of ground in March that's been watered. So that'll be my one concern. I do think the better the ground, the better he is.
You mentioned Kemboy as well. That I found that fascinating. Not only the race, but the fact that David seemed to just kind of make it up himself as he went along and made a mid-race move. And I love seeing that in a race where a jockey kind of ignores what the instructions were. And then your dad is saying, as he did that, I was thinking, what am I going to say to this so-and-so after the race for doing this? And then he ends up winning by 8 lengths.
Yeah, I mean, I thought David was fantastic. I thought he was probably near enough right this season. He does have a bit of James Dean about him. He doesn't really care. And that works for and against him at different times, but it definitely worked for him this time. You could see, and oftentimes in those 3 mile races, especially in Leopardstown, the pace slows up going past the stands. You are going slightly uphill. Kemboy can be quite keen, so he's on the outside. He doesn't have a lot of cover. The horse starts to get keen as the pace slows. And he's gone on. I don't think he's gone hugely faster. I think the pace was coming back, and he's continued to go forward. But once he's got the front, the horse is settled, and he's slowed it up, and everyone continues to let him slow it up, and it's turned into a sprint from the top of the home straight. Now he's won so well, possibly he'd won anyway, but it was a brave thing to do, and I think he has to take all the plaudits.
Who are you if he's James Dean?
I don't know, Johnny. I'll let you tell me that.
But in fairness,
your cousin Vinny, Patrick.
Yeah.
The whole narrative of the Gold Cup has changed because My Bite bled. He's having a wind operation. Native River, I thought, was quite disappointing at Kempton. And then you had Kemboy winning, and Patrick, I thought, Road to Respect ran an absolute blinder as well because the race was a mess for him. Neither Noel Meade nor your dad has won the Gold Cup. You present him Percy, who's favourite now, hasn't run yet, and as an Irish fan, you're like, this is building up rather nicely now.
Yeah, Road to Respect was obviously eye-catching. Now, I don't think he'd beaten Kemboy on the day anyway. He probably would have been a very good second. But you have to remember, in the Gold Cup last year, he probably got stuck too far back through no fault of Sean Flanagan's. But the first two kind of got away on the field. I mean, I was leading the pack on Jackadam, and from a mile out, I'm only sitting on nothing. And no one's kind of gone past me to go chasing the front two, which has probably given them a bit of a cushion. So Road to Respect is entitled to be rated better than his finishing position last year.
What about presenting Percy then? You're like, didn't even run at Christmas because the ground is too quick.
I'm not worried about that, and I often, Native River didn't run till February, and he won the World Cup last year. And Best Mate used to only have 2 runs, and I wonder, is Pat Kelly half thinking, there might be no harm if he has 1 run and goes to a Cup.
Patrick, what about the theory that it's now about the younger horses coming through? You have Kemboy's a 6-year-old, is the only runner in the field, and the Savills a 6-year-old. Clanday's Obo in the King George Chase, the only 6-year-old to run in the race. He jumped well and he won well. Is it a case, like, it was the softest start to Cheltenham since 1982 last year? Native River and Might Bite to me, maybe last season left a lot of a mark on them. You've been riding in these races. Do you think that it's about the up-and-comers now, the Ken Boys, the Clan des Oboes, to use the football parlance, that we should be looking for?
It's hard to say. I mean, I'm not a big believer that one 6 or 7 minute race can finish a horse career. Obviously, always you are looking for the young and upcoming horse, particularly in these staying chases. I mean, the Gold Cup winner has a terrible record lately of coming back. When the years of Denman and Cato Star and Long Run, they used to come back every year. So it's hard to say. I mean, Clan des Oboes, I can't get my head around that as well. Out through his whole form, there was an extraordinary training performance from Paul Nichols, you know, for a horse who ran the Triumph Hurdle behind Apple's Jade and a few other good ones, Footpad, I think, as well. Kenboy, like I said, that race in Leopardstown, it turned into a sprint and it was on very good ground. So 3 mile 2 on probably slower ground is going to be a different test altogether. It's not a race I'd like to be trying to pick the winner of.
What about Footpad? Like, of all the things I can't get my head around, that's right up there. How he did everything right. He goes 1 to 100 in running, so you have to bet 10 grand to win 100 quid that he wins after he jumps the last, and he's beaten half a length by a 12-year-old.
Yeah, that was a kick in the stomach. All right. I suppose a lot of our horses seem to need the run at Christmas, and you have to remember when Footpad ran, he got a fall and he got an overreach. He missed a bit of time. And perhaps we just weren't hard enough on him. You know, perhaps he just blew up. The only thing I would say against that is it's not a case of Footpad coming back to the third and fourth horse. Simply Ned has gone and caught him and gone away from the third and fourth horse. So it was a strange result. And again, these horses coming out of novice company, it's a huge step up to open company. So you never know. So for me, Footpad has to go and prove now that he is better than that. But I would give him the benefit of doubt that perhaps we just had him slightly undercooked.
Would you be afraid of Altiora? He's only one horse. We know with horse racing, Patrick, that anything can happen. Footpad was so impressive at Cheltenham last year. A bit of cut in the ground. He strips fitter on the day. Surely you can't be just scared of one horse.
I'm very scared of Altiora. But look, on a day, a horse, like last year, did he have a stone bruise 2 days before? You know, on a day, a horse can fall or get carried out, or the box might break down when he get to the races. So, of course, you have to go there. And look, if he does, Min is there. Min has been second to him twice. So don't forget him. But I'd like to think that everything has to step up to Altiora's level of form, without doubt. But I wouldn't give up a Footpad just yet. I would like to see his next run before making any real judgments.
Patrick, you've been great with your time. We were talking just before you came on about the rest of the season and how it goes kind of from Leopardstown up to Cheltenham. But there's also obviously the Dublin Racing Festival in the meantime. So there's plenty of good races for us to look forward to in the next 3-4 weeks as well.
There is. You know, January can be a quite enough month. Obviously, the Testies, which is our local race in Gorn, is on at the end of the month. That's probably the big race, and we're looking forward to that. But the Dublin Racing Festival is what we'll be gearing most of our horse up for. Like I said, I think a few of our horses needed the run at Christmas, the first time out horses, so we'll be getting stuck into them now in the next few weeks. And
how does that work? Is that like getting them kind of match ready for that, so it's like a full blowout, and that's you deciding then at that point, okay, they are match ready and we kind of know exactly what they're going to be at their best? Or do you try and build them and pace them so that the performance in the Dublin Racing Festival is a little bit lower than it will be at Cheltenham? Or how do you grade that?
Well, I think coming out of Christmas, we just thought that perhaps we'd been a little easy on our horses, and that they seemed to need, in the last furlong and a half, when usually they were going forward, they were staying the same or going backwards. So we're just going to have to be a little harder on them at home, and then obviously you're going to have to leave a little bit for Cheltenham. But Willie does all that by eye, and he'll look at some horses and say he needs to work harder, he doesn't. But on general, I think we're going to work a few of them a bit harder. So hopefully Johnny will have a few more favourites to back in February.
It's not even that I'm a favourite backer necessarily. I just couldn't. I mean, I backed. In fairness, I'm in the same boat as pretty much everyone, apart from the value seekers like John. And I back a lot of horses at big prices, but. Tell me about Lorena, Patrick, because we need something in the Champion Hurdle that'll shake up what now looks a slightly vulnerable favourite. And this is a mare who's never run outside a novice company and has never even in Ireland taken on geldings, to the best of my knowledge, if I remember rightly. Started off in, I think, Tremor last season. Absolutely loved her. Could be a chaser. Starts off tomorrow, and she's only like second favourite now for the Champion Hurdle. What are we to expect?
Sure. Lorena is, she's a fabulous mare to look at. on the gallop in the morning, she's a horse that will take your eye. It's hard to believe that she is a mare. She's so big and strong. The race tomorrow looks an ideal race. Like you said, Johnny, she's only ran against mares and novice mares at that. So she's competing at probably the lowest grade that is available for most horses to run in at that, so it's a big step up to ask her for. Now tomorrow she's taking on only mares again, so it's a nice stepping stone. She has to win and win impressively for her to be a champion hurdle mare, and then we'll file another race after that. But it is the ideal. Willie wanted soft ground with her because, like I said, she's such a big mare, and if he can, with these horses stepping into second season, he likes to find an intermediate race rather than going straight into open Grade 1 companies. So this race was available. It's soft ground. There's lots to work on with her, but she should be winning well.
Patrick, just before you go, you're the bumper king, Champagne Fever, Cheltenham, we all know about all that, Cousin Vinny. What did you make of the bumpers you rode in over Christmas? Because you rode in, I think, all 4 days, and any horses that we should be looking out for out of those?
Yeah, I wasn't involved in many of the finishes. I questioned the Stevens Day bumper form. I thought the first 3 had all been exposed. I thought my horse Alho blew up. He's a big horse. He's one to look out for the future. Probably over staying distances and over fences. The most annoying race was the winners bumper. Mount Leinster ran quite keen to me the day before, so I wanted to drop in, but I got man-marked by the other 2 favourites, and the Feeney Maguire rode a fantastic race and got away on us. I was disappointed in Mount Leinster anyway, but again, I thought I pulled him out at the top of the straight. I thought I was going to win hands and heels, and I thought he just hasn't quite got there. I think he's probably one that's we need to be harder on at home as well. To be honest, I wasn't sure that I saw a Cheltenham bumper horse over Christmas. That's always very hard to say, but Neptune won the 2.5 bumper, looks exposed. The Joseph's horse that won the 3rd day, I thought that race was not really a Leopardstown Christmas race. So, yeah.
Do you have them at home coming up? Because the Irish horses this year, that the 2 sort of outstanding bumper horses in Ireland this year, one of them is in sick bay at the moment, Malone Road, who I think is going to be sensationally good, and obviously Envoy Allen as well. He mightn't go to Cheltenham by the sounds of it. So it looks fairly open, the bumper. I mean, I think it's like 14 or 16 to 1 bar those 2, and neither is going to run. So, like, what's your depth this year in terms of your horses that maybe haven't run?
Yeah, we still have 4 or 5 good horses to come out. We didn't make any entries this week, and because just talking to Willie, and I thought, like I said, I just think we need to give them a few hard bits of work before we run them. But it's funny. This time last year, Relegated only just fell in the mayor's bumper and punched on New Year's Eve. Tornado Flyer was only just another horse. He hadn't done any fast work at this stage last year, and Carefully Selected had won the 2.5 mile bumper in Leopardstown, but we thought he probably lacked the gear for Cheltenham, and they turned out to be our top 3 bumper horses. So a bit like the 2-year-olds, it's hard to know midway through the season exactly where you are. Horses improve at different rates and disimprove at different rates as well. But at the moment, the picture, the water is muddy enough, I think. I
might be annoying him keeping him for one more question, but the big Grade 1 at Naas on Sunday, I know you're a big fan.
Tornado Flyer.
I know you're a big fan of Tornado Flyer, but it's a race that sometimes there may be too many Grade 1s, but this is a proper Grade 1.
It's a very good race. I'm a massive fan of Tornado Flyer. Like I said, he came into us a bit later than a lot of our horses last year. So at this stage, we hadn't done any fast work, and you could see that in his races. He improved. He just won when he won in Fairhouse in February. He was 3rd then in Champion Bumper in Cheltenham in March, and then in April he came and beat the horse who beat him in Cheltenham. So he's a horse who's continually improving. I think he has more improvement in him. I thought he was impressive when he won in Punchestown. I didn't think Ruby asked him to win. He wasn't asked to win in the same way Battle of Doyen won his maiden hurdle. For me, he's got the best form in the book, and I'd like to think he can continue his progress and go on and be one of the favourites for Cheltenham afterwards.
Patrick, you've been great with your time. Thanks a million, and enjoy whatever small bit of downtime you might get this week.
Thanks very much, sir.
It's Patrick Mullins there, been very good with his time this Friday afternoon for Friday night racing. James Dean Crack is a classic.
It is. That's going to stick.
A sycophant meeting like a celebrity in the bar there, just keep asking questions when he clearly wants to go, But
that's how you get treated when you're out on a Friday night now.
He's a very lucid character, though. I think he's great to listen to. His father is probably more measured with his words, puts a lot of thought into it. Like, not that Patrick doesn't, but he's I think he articulates very well, and that we've done well to grab him at last knockings to the show today.
But even the bit about like coming to the last, and your life flashed before your eyes. That bit from last year did, I'm not going to lie. And then the short stride, and he's over clean.
Especially because he didn't expect to, possibly, because Sam Crow and Mellon were the top dogs in the race. And, I'm here now again, and I'm in the lead. I'm going to win the race. And it's not the Galway hurdle, it's a bigger deal. So, it's funny how things work out. Like, I remember he fell off Duvan. Duvan fell in
the groan in the stand.
And you just don't know when it's going to strike your way. And then you find yourself, Ger, as you say, in that position. Okay, I've got to make sure everything goes right, and Patrick is very experienced. And it's fascinated to hear the way he talked about the Kenboy race, that it turned into a sprint. That I think that what I'm taking out of it is, I think that there's still a bit of work to be done to get Willie Mullins' horses to peak fitness for Cheltenham. Footpad, Mellon, these are horses you got to be on the right side of. Do not discount these horses just because they got beaten at Leopardstown.
I presume you've both read George Orwell as well, where he speaks about, you can't use these words that have just become like boring sort of, analogies.
War and cliche.
All these cliches, because you come up with something new. So as a racing journalist, you find yourself, like, because, when I was in the Irish Independent, you might file, and the Racing Post, you might file 5,000 words in a day on several different races, and you're just using over and over the same sort of words, banalities or whatever. So I like to introduce new words if I can, but I like man-marked. He man-marked me in that race. I hadn't heard that before.
Well, and here's the thing. Everybody understands exactly what it means. So
and both of them, they killed each other.
This ain't jargon. This is like
sports talk.
Very evocative. So we were talking about the Grade 1 Lauders of Naas Novice Hurdle, which is the first Grade 1 race of 2019 at Naas Racecourse this Sunday. It's Naas Racecourse's flagship jumps meeting of the year, and we've already been talking about Tornado Flyer, but also Battle Over Doyen, which feature among the 9 horses declared to run. We have 2 pairs of tickets to give away. To win, just tell us which trainer won the race last year with Next Destination, and you can either text the show on 53106 or you can drop a comment for us here wherever you're watching the stream, on YouTube, on Facebook, or indeed on Twitter. We should talk about that race since it's already been brought up. So this is, so what have we got? 9 declared at the moment. Are declarations in for Sunday races yet?
Yeah, they are, it does revolve around Tornado Flyer, Ger. Won easily over 2.5 miles at Punchestown last month. Was the grade winner. One winner at Punchestown last year. So he's got top class form of the book, the top 3 in the Cheltenham bumper. Shapes as if he wants a trip. Ruby's on him. I think he's probably a worthy favourite. Battle Over Doyen has done nothing wrong, so it's definitely an improver. Jack Kennedy's on him. Coming to Me's only run on good ground was disappointing. Lone Wolf is an improver. We saw how Joseph O'Brien improved Le Richburg at Christmas to win that 2-mile novice chase. Commander Fleet didn't light up at Ferryhouse, and Sam's Profile is one for next year. So I think Tornado Flyer is the one to beat. Johnny?
Yeah,
it's a good race.
It is a good race. I mean, Naas is a cracking racetrack. They've done great work on the owners and trainers bar and the new facility there. It was a track that needed work, but it's without doubt one of my favourite racetracks. And I think as a spectacle, it's an excellent spectacle to watch.
Can I interrupt you? Right, when we were kids, we used to go to the Curragh a good bit. My best mate from school is Noel Mead's nephew, so we would have gone over quite a good bit, and the trick that we had was to go down to the parade ring to look at the horses and to bet accordingly, and we were successful way more than we should have been as kids. Obviously, we were over 18, but that was the only thing, because we didn't understand form, we hadn't a clue what it meant. But you'd go and look, that horse is foaming at the mouth, maybe we'll stay away from him. That one, that's a bit of gone, there was no science to it. It was the complete opposite of science. But it was a sense that these horses look better than those horses.
Well, there is a science to that. Like paddock judges, and I still say, but we need to get people to go racing. There is actually a value to go racing from a social aspect, but also from the fact that you'll see something happening in the parade ring that is deeply hurtful to a horse's chance that will not be on TV. And you'll be at home looking at the betting, and this horse starts drifting in the betting, and you're like, that doesn't bother me. I'm going to go in again. Well, maybe you should be worried, because the horse could be up on his hind legs in the parade ring, frothing at the mouth, as you say, a lather of sweat, and quite apart from that, you can judge. The good judges can tell if a horse badly needs a run, if his coat is gone and stuff like that. And with Naas, the parade ring is pretty much, you can see the parade ring from the owners and trainers, and then you're straight out looking onto, you can literally turn around in the upstairs bar and you're looking at the finishing line. And this is a facility that I think showcases what's great about going racing, and it's a very friendly racetrack. It doesn't feel pretentious.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're under any kind of social stress or whatever. But the Christmas I had would certainly make me think,
You need to get down to the parade ring a bit more, Johnny.
Well, you certainly need to look at...
who's burly, who's not.
Look deeper at races like this race on Sunday. People... I think it was Vladimir Lenin said, a lie told often enough becomes the truth, or whoever said that anyway. But if you listen to the same thing being repeated over and over, and it doesn't need to be North Korean indoctrination here, you can just read the papers on Sunday or listen to podcasts or whatever, they'll say this is a 2-horse race on Sunday. That doesn't mean it is.
Is that why the favourites have been overturned so much? Is that there's been quite a lot of that, really? Is that like...
they are overbet often.
But if you look at Footpad and if you look at Mellon, Patrick's even saying there, we need to work them a little bit harder, possibly. Generally, the horses in the Ireland, there's a general feeling that, that they needed to be worked a little bit harder at Christmas. So I get the sense that if you're talking about a championship race, which a Grade 1 race at Leopardstown is, now obviously Sharjah on that ground had a lot of runs this season. To me, I'm always looking for the nuances, and so when I'm looking at that race at Naas on Sunday, I'm looking at the Battle Over Doyen is a horse that can improve. Lone Wolf, the trainer tends to bring them on carefully over time to get them to a peak level. Joseph O'Brien, as we saw with Leirichberg, who everything he did as a novice hurdler last year was a bonus for being a chaser. Second behind Delta Work in the Drinmore Ferry House, won the Arkle Trial easily at Leopardstown. So if you're following trends and nuances, I think the way I read form has always been about the nuance, not about what's directly in front of me. Now the Bouverdare thing I cannot explain either. It was 20 pounds behind Verdana Blue in the ratings. Yeah. Hammered Sam Crow in Newcastle.
When needing the run, seemingly.
Yeah, so I don't understand that one. But then again, didn't really perform. If you look at the last year's champion hurdle, was strange in the finish. Should have really put that to bed easily. So maybe he's beginning to develop quirks in his system. But would you be back in Bouverdare at whatever 4-1 on or whatever it was? No, you wouldn't.
That's it. And our internet went down this week just when my flatmate started watching Making a Murderer, and she was like, I can't have this. Do you have enough data so I can download it? Because she got so wrapped up in it. And I was discussing Making a Murderer, and I was saying, You're being very much kind of told one side of the story here just because of circumstance, and you can watch a documentary where you're basically guided in one direction. I'm not sure what happened in Making a Murderer, but you're seeing kind of a version of it. So if you meet two people at the races on Sunday, one of them makes a case that, listen, Tornado Flyer can't be beaten. I heard Patrick Mullins on News Talk on Friday. He loves this horse. He's far better form than Battle Over Doyen. Then you could meet, Michael O'Leary or Eddie O'Leary, and he'll say to you, listen, this is the best horse we've had. You're getting two complete opposing views. What you could actually do is look at the form of the race and say, hell, I think both these horses are too short. What about Commander of Fleet? Yeah. He ran in the Royal Bond. He's very highly regarded. He steps up in trip. He's shaped well, yet he's 10-1.
And you can forgive a bad run.
And you can forget, and it wasn't that bad run. He was straight into a Grade 1 from winning the maiden hurdle. There was an egg and spoon race. And you can pick holes in the favourites. You can say, I don't want to back Tornado Flyer because Willie Mullins had like a terrible record with favourites over the Christmas. I don't really want to back Battle Over Doyen at a short price because Gordon Elliott didn't have a good Christmas either. Yeah. So there are so many different aspects to this race alone, and as a punter this year, I certainly want to question things more, and you should certainly do that. Just don't buy into what everyone says because it might not be right.
Yeah, for sure. Your own information is always the best. And if you are going to Naas on Sunday, check out goracing.ie. Friday Night Racing is brought to you by goracing.ie, but that's all of the details for going to any of the tracks. It's the full race cards, it's information on all the runners and how to get in and all that kind of stuff that you need if you are going racing. So that's not a bad way to start the year, is it? The way that race?
Not at all, John. And, some of us looking for proper Grade 1 action. We've a Grade 1 in Sandown tomorrow.
Yeah, Lorena should win and we'll get a better indication of her chances for Cheltenham. We got the Tallworth Hurdle, which is also a good pointer to the Supreme Novices Hurdle. We got Rathhill, the next pointer. JB McManus colours, probably a worthy favourite. Money today for Elixir de Nuts. in the Terry Warner colours, the Rooster Booster colours, won twice at Cheltenham. So I think, yeah, to me, if I'm a punter, which I am, I'm watching these races, Johnny and Ger. I'm not backing on these races. Leopardstown, I was there for 2 days. I was interested. I didn't make any money on Stephen's Day. I thought Mengli Khan was never at the races in the...
I backed him as well. Like that, like I thought that, like that, it was just races like that. How does Mengli Khan get beaten that far? Granted he's inexperienced, but generally he jumps great and he's floored and he's conditions in his favour basically in that he's in any event. But we have that Tolworth hurdle. JB McManus has, I think he's changed tack a bit in that he's buying pointers, which he wasn't doing. And
it was France, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was more, and for what he spent, like you could make a case that he's probably should have had more proper Grade 1 horses, but Gigginstown have maybe prodded him in the direction of buying all these pointers, because point to pointing is so competitive now. You get a winner of a point to point and he could go for nearly $500,000. Yeah. It's incredible money, but the likes of Rathhill, you know, he won a maiden hurdle, but he's straight into favourite for a Grade 1, the Tolworth. And I was just going through this over the last few weeks. Nicky Henderson and JP, they've incredible strength with novices all of a sudden, such that they'll probably have to split them up into handicaps at Christmas because he has so many. But it's an intrigue. I'd be with John. I wouldn't be having a bet in it, but Rathhill is another very exciting horse.
One thing I would say to everybody as well, like once we get the replays back, when we will get the replays back on all the sites, I'm not going to go into that now, but just watch the races. I mean, most of the time at Christmas, I think what probably benefited me was I didn't have that many bets, but just watch the races. And I think Patrick says, or Johnny was said, you know, you can't beat your own opinion, and like you just pick things up. You hear what Johnny's saying, you hear what Ger's asking, and you hear what Patrick is saying about races that, well, actually that's interesting. I didn't, like Ken Boy turned into a sprint, or we were kicking ourselves at Footpad, but we wouldn't write him off. We're not, you know, we're scared of Altior, but in a way we're not scared of him.
And also we have HD highlights now. We've HD replays every day of Irish racing, where you can basically set your Sky Plus and record, and you can record all these meetings, and you have a library there from now on. You've no excuse in terms of watching the racing back, and that's one thing I am looking forward to. It's the first time we've HD daily of Irish racing, and I know it's a first world problem, but it does actually make a difference. You can see proper clear pictures, and you can pick up nuances of what happened in each race.
Yeah, okay. So we've had a couple of non-runners over Christmas with our charity bets. The Tote.com charity bet fund has remained at €1,485. We're going to try and increase the pot for the Irish Injured Jockeys Fund in 2019 with our €100 Tote charity bet. Johnny, you've gone for Tell Me Annie at Naas.
I'm very sweet on this horse as an each way bet, because the favourite in the race, Missy Tata, hasn't run in 2 years.
Gordon Elliott's Missy Tata?
Yeah. So she would have been a very good juvenile hurdler.
It's a chance to call it Missy Elliott, really, isn't he?
Yeah. Hopefully half sister will come out called Missy Elliott. But Tell Me Annie, who's a more sort of talking to the granny type name, you know, Tell Me Annie, how are things, like, you know, rather than Missy Tata, like it's a bit more sexy, whatever. Anyway, Tell Me Annie, she's also getting on in years. I think she's 10 now, but she was only 6-1 in a proper graded race at Cork the last day. May have wanted to make the run-in, but a Willie Mullins horse ensured that she didn't. Didn't run badly, but I've a major suspicion she'll be overpriced against Missy Tata, who, whatever way she is, after 2 years off, it wouldn't be a surprise if she were underwhelming.
Yeah, okay, so Tell Me Annie each way at Naas on Sunday.
Yeah, and she's a very, very likeable horse. And if you're, you know, trained by maybe a smaller yard, Declan Quealy's, but well able to train, and could be great value here.
Okay, also want to point you in the direction of the Super 6, the Tote.com's Pick 6. The
Super 6 sounds like a little offer on your video, on your
I might start that one
page,
again.
Actually, yeah.
I might start that one again. The Pick 6, the Tote.com's Pick 6. There's a €142,534 Super Pick 6 rollover at Naas this Sunday for the Lawless Grade 1 Novice Hurdle. First Grade 1 of 2019, which obviously should see a much larger pool to play for when the racing gets underway.
I did this at Christmas at Leopardstown. I had 4 out of 6.
That's not bad going. Like,
it's amazing going.
I was.
But it's better to have none out of 6.
I had the first one at 12-1, and then I had the next 2, and then Limily let me down. And I was.
That's good going.
I was gutted. But you do start getting nervous, because you see all these. It's all a pool of obviously people's units and bets, and you see if you get an outsider in the first couple of races or whatever, or if you got like 2 to 3 in each race, you see people getting knocked out, and then you start dreaming and thinking. You feel like that couple in Armagh who won the Euro Millions today. and it really is.
Normal one there. I did not know that.
Yeah, the 130 million.
Yeah,
delighted.
I'll be in touch.
I will not be going public if I win the pick six, but yeah, it's definitely worth doing at that.
It's going to be a big pool on Sunday because it's already there, but people will bet.
Yeah,
into
it'll be probably over 200,000.
And it's a Sunday. Basically, British jumps racing on a Sunday tends to be pretty average because it's not a big day for them over there. It's our big racing day. There'll be a lot of British punters betting into the pool, and as well as that, it's actually pretty. Like in this overall scheme of pick sixes, this one looks like you could win it. There are 4 races with short enough price favourites, and then you have 2 handicaps. It's definitely doable. I would advise investing a few bob into it and going with a couple of long shots, as John says, in some of the races, because if you do win it, you don't want it to be like a small portion, like if you win the lotto and you pick the numbers everyone else picks. You don't want that to happen, so you have to think a bit left field.
But you don't win if they don't win.
You could, well, basically it depends on, say if the pool is 200 grand and there's one winner, so the Tote takes out 20% thereabouts, so you'll keep 160 grand. If there's 160 winners, you get £1 each.
Yeah.
Not exciting. Well, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So
don't pick deliberate losers though. They're not, but like
you have to think though outside because everyone will go for the favourites.
Sometimes like think about it. It's €64. Now I'm not advocating maybe that much because it doesn't have to be €2 stake. It can be less than that. But if you pick 2 horses in every race, it's 64.
Can I just ask about the stake, right? Why does it matter what the size of your stake is? But if you win the pot, you win a percentage of the pot.
Yeah. So it's paid to €1. But if, like, say, if you had a 50-cent stake, you win half of it.
A lot of syndicates now will put a fair bit of money into this, like several grand, and come up with like every combination nearly possible and ensure they win it. But it doesn't
that
mean
means somebody's sitting there filling out those forms by hand.
It was like
6 days work.
I was doing that at Christmas, and and it was for about 10 minutes. It felt great, and then I went to the bar.
There's a guy in racing who shall remain nameless, but he used to have lotto combinations, and apparently he did win the lotto because he worked out like that it was value to do the lotto. And I think reputedly anyway, they changed the lotto. They added an extra lotto number.
3 numbers,
Yeah, this guy. Well, this guy had it kind of beaten, but people will bet heavy into syndicate into Sunday. You don't need to, and you can still win.
Okay, so you can now play the pick six for 10 cent a line, meaning that you can cover far more possible winning combinations for your euro and potentially scoop a percentage of the final payout. The Super Pick Six rolled each of the 4 days at Leopardstown without being won, and to play, just pick the horses to win the races 1 to 6 at Naas this Sunday. Check that out at the tote.com. Okay, so we've talked about Lorena, 5-1 on.
Yeah, like she should win. I just, the only thing I would worry about is things can go wrong, and just Willie did have a few disappointments at Christmas. I'd prefer to watch her win at 5-1 on.
It's about how she wins. If she wins, it's about how she wins.
I think she's a special mare though. I could see her becoming a champion hurdle winner. She's a lot to prove to be that, but Willie was calling her special after she won, I think, her second race last year when she beat Very Little. He's very excited by her.
Okay, is there anything else that you had a couple of races for us to look at, did you?
Yeah, it's really those, the Tallworth, Rathhill, I think that's the standard, Tornado Flyer. I was going through like the winners that Willie had actually over Christmas. Classical Dream, Salsa Resha, Amaron, Ready Hot, Philly Peppers, Kenboy, Small Farm, Castlebawn West, Prava Laguna, Good Time, Thara and Sharjah. The one I picked out of it was Castlebawn West. I thought that was a good race he was involved in with the big dog. I thought the pair of them came well clear of the remainder. And
it was a good race, Sean.
Yeah, it was a good race. And it was a no-meat horse who had, I think, finished behind. I had a press challenge that ended up beating Animix at Limerick. So through the lines of form, Castlebawn West, I think, is a horse to follow. I also probably will be having an anti-post bet on Footpad for the champion chase at 9-1.
What happened to Animix?
I don't know. I mean, he was weak in the betting. He went from about 3s on out to 10 to 11 at one stage. There was a big gamble on Jessica Harrington's horse. It was one of those very frustrating races where I did the spotlight for the Race and Post and I tipped Animix, but I couldn't see Jessica Harrington's horse win it. I thought it has a place chance. Ends up winning quite well. To be honest, Animix, he looked overhyped on the day. He was a bit keen, but ultimately he should be winning a race like that and winning it well. And he'll probably be a nice horse, but he's not going to be winning the Supreme unless something really dramatic happens.
Okay.
So maybe he was, in fairness to Willie Mullins or any connections, they never said he was going to win a Supreme.
Yeah. You had a recommendation for...
Castlebawn West, I think, is a horse worth following because I think the race he won at Leopardstown with Ruby and David Mullins in a ding-dong finish, they were well clear of the remainder. And the no-meat horse in the race, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, had won previously, I think. And I thought the race... was a good race.
The big dog is very well regarded.
The naked eye would tell me that was a good race.
And so that's
from Leopardstown.
And sorry, that is an anti-post bet for Cheltenham.
Possibly, if he turns up, he could turn up in the Ballymore, the 2.5 mile. But he's just a horse worth following. One thing as well, just before we go, get a horse tracker. You don't. I mean, if you get a horse tracker, you put it into your computer, and then you will always know when a horse is running. You get an alert on your phone. A horse is running today, and you don't miss a horse that you might have noticed, and then you don't miss a potential winner.
The beauty of the horse tracker is, and so many mates say this to me, and I know exactly what they mean. You get an email then, like 6 months down the line, and you get this horse in the tracker, and you're like, Jesus, I have no recollection of putting that in. And then you just like, you have to trace yourself back in time and just say, I have more to be doing. But obviously I saw something in it whenever I ran, if I ever heard of it.
That's a scary backwards track through the inner recesses of your two minds.
Murky world.
What horse trackers do you use? Is it an app? Is there a specific one?
Yeah, I use the Race and Post one. You can use the IrishRacing.com one. Tells you when the horse is entered, tell you when it's running, and tells you how much it was beaten afterwards.
All right, good stuff. Tweet from Barry. I'm loving Johnny's post-Christmas Grinch act. Orwell Lennon in under 20 minutes. The boy's on fire.
Yeah, well, I'm burning inside. It's been a tough Christmas.
Sorry,
but
Johnny.
you know, it's a mind over matter thing about the year and all that. It's basically just another day, but it does give you, society demands that you check where you're going in life, and a lot of us are doing that at the moment. But looking forward.
On that note, you can hear the laughter from the control room. It's been a great Friday Night Racing, lads. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks to Patrick Mullins as well for being part of it. Friday Night Racing brought to you by GoRacing.ie. Make sure you check it out in advance of going racing, or indeed if you just want to know about any of the racetracks around the country at the moment. That is Friday Night Racing in the books. We'll see you next week. Good luck.
Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
And they're off.
Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at goracing.ie.